And it is, okay, it's now live. You're live.
Okay,
Lisa, before we get started, if an attendee is not able to be there to represent their case, do we still consider that case or do we move on?
we will have to table that case if they cannot attend. We'll have to
Okay.
table it.
And
So,
just declare that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, so we'll have it on the record. Thank you.
Okay.
Will do.
Just to, I'm just going to, I just muted everyone for the moment. This is the regular hearing of the Archaeological Review Committee for April 23rd, 2020. This is our first virtual land use hearing. So for those of you who are in attendance or who are watching at home, bear with us. We're trying to do our best to get this right. We are going to proceed with the agenda, which you see broadcast on your screen here. If you are looking for instructions as to how to attend, they're on our website at santafenm.gov/archaeological_review_committee. And there are further instructions on that page as well. So right now I am going to turn the hearing over to our ARC chair, David Eck, to begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I call this hearing of the Archaeological Review Committee of 23 April 2020 to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. David Eck,
Present.
Jake Ivey,
I'm unmuting all. My apologies.
is he not there? Jake Ivey,
You can't hear me?
I can now. So you're Derek Pierce,
Yes, I'm here.
Courtney Wands,
Present.
Dale Zinn.
Here.
We have a complete quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The first thing we need to take care of is the chairmanship of this committee meeting. It is touch and go as to whether I can actually hear or participate in this. And so to make things go as smoothly as possible, the willing Derek Pierce, Vice Chair, has volunteered to take over the chairmanship. So if someone will make a motion to that effect, we can have our first roll call vote on that.
I so move.
That's Dale Zinn.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Oh, I second.
Ivey.
All right, proceed with the roll call vote.
Yes. Jake Ivey,
Aye.
Derek Pierce,
Aye.
Courtney Wands,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Eck.
Thank you, Derek. Go for it.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And Lisa, I believe we have one change. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair Pierce. Item number 10, case 2020-001921-ARC is going to have to be tabled until the May 7th hearing.
Okay. Any other changes?
That's all to my knowledge.
Okay. Then may we have a roll call vote for approval of the agenda, please?
Mr. Chair, we need a motion and a second.
I move to accept the agenda.
I second.
And we'll get a roll call vote here. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I got ahead of myself.
Okay. David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Ivey,
Aye.
Courtney Wands,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved unanimously.
Thank you. Oh, as amended. Please make that note.
Right, as amended.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 5th, 2020. So I'll go around the horn for comments from our members, starting with Member Eck.
I have no changes to offer, other than my usual apology for not being able to speak.
Okay.
Duly noted. Member Ivy,
No changes.
thank you. Member Wan
No changes.
and Member Zinn.
I had just a couple of things to fill in because unusually I was inaudible on some things. I'll find it. On page, what I've got is page 13. Down where it says Mr. Zinn remarks are inaudible. I think what I said is for the record and, excuse
What
me,
paragraph is that?
it's the very bottom, second from the last.
Okay, got it. Yes, sir.
And I think what I said is for the record and for the reporters present, GPR means ground penetrating radar.
Oh, okay.
And other than that,
Ground penetrating radar.
correct.
Thank you.
And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Member Zinn. I have no corrections, so I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 5th meeting with corrections.
So moved.
Second,
May we have a roll call vote, please?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Dale Zinn.
Dale?
Okay, thank you. All right. David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Ivy.
Aye.
Courtney Wands,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved unanimously.
Thank you. All right, then the next item is matters from the floor. And since this is a virtual floor, I assume we're looking for people with their hand up. Do we have any?
If I may, Chair Pierce, just mention all of those attending the meeting or the hearing as an attendee. If you have any matters from the floor that you'd like to bring forward at this time, please raise your hand and I will allow the controls to release so that you can speak. I see one from Ron Winters. So I will allow him to talk with your permission, Chair Pierce. My apologies.
Please.
Okay. Ron, you have the floor.
So just when my case is called, then I'll become active. And do I have to raise my hand each time?
No. So when for those members, for those in attendee status, when who's got a case on the agenda this evening, when your case comes up, I will go in and convert you from an attendee into a panelist, and that will give you more capability to be seen on video feed and to speak freely about your case. So as your case comes up, I'll go from the attendees list, convert you to a panelist, and that's how we're going to be handling that this evening.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay. Do we have any other matters from the floor?
Lisa, may I make a comment on the ability of attendees to raise their hands? This is Assistant City Attorney Paez. I just wanted also to note that if you are an attendee and you're having trouble finding a raise hand button, my understanding is that *9 will probably also alert us that you'd like to speak and raise your hand. So in case anybody's calling in from a landline or is otherwise having trouble raising a hand and does want to speak, go ahead and try that option now before we move on.
Thank you. That's my understanding as well. *9 is how you raise your hand as a call-in attendee.
Thank you.
Very well. We'll wait a minute in case anybody needs to do that.
Okay, it looks like everyone is in good shape for now.
Okay, thank you. Then I guess we're ready to move on to item F, action items. The first case is case 1891. Brian Cribben, archaeologist, request to be included on the City of Santa Fe approved list of archaeologists and historians. Lisa, could we have a point of clarification first? Is this for all 3 districts?
I believe so, but we're going to need to ask the applicant to elaborate. I'm going to promote Brian to become a panelist right now. So just take a moment. Now, Brian, you are a panelist and you have the ability to speak. If you want to show your face on video, you can turn on your video function.
Can you see me or no?
We cannot see
To
you.
you.
All right. Well, there we go. How about now?
Now,
Yes.
All right. Well, Mr. Cribben, is there anything you would like to tell the committee before we begin consideration?
Well, my compliments to the committee and also the staff at the city's HPD at making the virtual format work. These are trying times, and I would like to offer my compliments that you guys are pulling this off. On the matter that you raised, Mr. Chair, of which areas am I applying for? Looking at my application, I do believe that I applied for historic downtown, rivers and trails, and suburban. So all 3. And I am aware that there is a relatively small number of days in the city of Santa Fe in my resume and CV. I would like to call attention to the committee, though, that I have abundant experience throughout northern New Mexico that is either close to the city in physical proximity or directly relevant in a temporal sense. For example, my work at Alameda School, Pueblo, is basically, that's LA 421. Again, this is just one example, which was visited by Ottermeen as he basically retreated from Santa Fe south. He again visited it and burned it, a year or 2 later, but that's besides the point. What I'm going for here is that my experience should be sufficient, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cribben.
Chair Pierce, may I add something that actually was a response to the question that was raised by Member Wands via email prior to regarding external policies?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Member Wands had inquired about external policy 12, I believe, and 15. Is that correct, Member Wands?
Yeah.
Regarding professional qualifications. And I could not find digital files of that, but I did find the paper files of that. So if you would like some more clarification as to what those external policies regarding archaeologist qualifications were, I would be happy to provide that. I could even read them out loud into the record if needed or desired.
That might be a good thing to do. I vaguely remember some requirement for something like 6 months of direct charge or within the downtown historic district before you can become permitted there. Am I remembering that correctly, or is that
Something along those lines. That's what I was looking for, was the exact wording.
So in external policy 12, I'll just read it. It's rather brief. It's the Archaeological Review Committee policy regarding the archaeological consultant's demonstration that professional qualifications of the Archaeological Review District's ordinance have been met. Was adopted in 1994. It is the policy of the Archaeological Review Committee that an archaeological consultant will provide a current curriculum vitae to staff on January 1st of each year, and then they update that for each subsequent year. So that one isn't as relevant. External policy number 15 is guidelines for inclusion on the list of approved archaeologists, historical archaeologists, and historians. In this policy, it says the following guidelines are an effort to formalize and systematize the process of evaluating applicants for inclusion on the list. Item 1, educational background. Applicants shall provide evidence of their educational background. It's a simple listing on the curriculum vitae. Said evidence may consist of certified copies of transcripts, degrees, certificates, and so on and so forth. In terms of professional experience, it says item A, applicants will provide contact information for supervisory personnel. The committee may inquire into the nature of the applicant's work, experience, and performance. And then B, applicants shall provide the committee with a chart, table, or other document that summarizes their experience in terms of days, months, or years for each project. But that is all it says. So I don't have any specifics in terms of the length of time or the amount of days on a project in either of those external policies. And I'll keep glancing through these in case there's one I'm missing that might give you the detail that you were looking for, number ones.
Yeah, I have it somewhere, but it's not at my house.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys want to discuss further Mr. Cribben's experience and background. Oh, I think this is it, actually. I think I might have found it. My apologies, this came up this afternoon. External policy number 10, which is further specification about experience, archival research in particular. It is the intent of the committee that the guidelines apply equally to historic downtown, river and trails, and suburban. The interpreting and the ability to, gosh. I don't see anything specific about the amount of time. I apologize. And by the way, these external policies are something that we are going to have to revisit because I don't believe they were ever properly adopted or incorporated. I think in order for them to be legally binding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sally, that they would have to be written interpretations of the code issued by the land use director or fully adopted as amendments to the code. So that's why they haven't, I don't know if that's why they haven't been formally incorporated or not, but
So I would concur with that. I think as long as an applicant meets the minimum set forth in the code, so you do need the 6 months in the Southwest and then the longer period of time for the excavations, or no, historical archaeologists. I'm sure y'all are very familiar with this provision, but it's that the paragraph E of 14.2.7 does set forth the qualifications. And I think as long as those are met, that would be the minimum requirement.
thank you. So I apologize for not having found that specific document, Courtney. I'm trying really hard. As an aside, can I just mention, Dale, there's something happening with your video feed.
Let me
See you.
Oh yeah, I disappeared.
You disappeared.
Must be wearing all green or something. No, really strange.
Lisa,
Yes, yes.
I lost
Oh,
connection for a while there
turn-
while you were talking, but I think I got the gist of it. So we'll continue.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's continue, I think, with the discussion of Mr. Cribben's experience.
Okay, if Mr. Cribben has nothing else to add, then I'll go around the horn for the committee. So Member Eck, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had nothing real specific other than a general concern for the documented amount of experience in Santa Fe, but having heard applicant's description, I'm comfortable. I'm not hearing anything. Have things fallen apart?
No, I think Derek is frozen. I think he might be having some connectivity issues.
All right.
Just pause for a moment. Maybe he can rejoin us. Hopefully if this continues to be an issue, we might have to turn the chair ship back over to you, David, or another willing participant.
Just keep going down the list.
Let's see if he can rejoin us really quickly. Thank you all for your patience. That goes for both panelists and attendees. It was all a bit of trial and error.
Is my video back, Lisa?
Your video is back. You're looking good, Dale.
Oh,
Thanks.
no one said that to me all day.
All we could see was your hat for a while.
And I know the camera was looking the other way.
And it appears we may have, is Courtney still there? We may have lost Courtney as well.
Oh, man.
We still have a quorum. There's Derek.
I'm back.
Hi.
Right.
Let's hope that's the last one.
Hopefully. And we lost Courtney. Hopefully Courtney can jump back on. So David Eck had just completed making his remarks. You want to move on to the next?
Okay, Member Ivy, well, we still have you.
I'm in favor.
Okay.
I vote aye for acceptance.
While we wait for Courtney, how about Member Zinn?
My concerns are, and just on the table of 17, as already pointed out by Brian, Mr. Kevin, is that, basically historic district shows zero surveys, zero excavations. And I am not an archaeologist in this thing, but I do represent the public. And one of the things that we've done pretty recently, we had 2 other people come as applicants, and they were, I think one or both of them were excluded for having insufficient experience in the downtown historic district. So I'm trying to make sure this committee doesn't get themselves in a situation where they're not being consistent.
Thank you, Member Zinn. I would remind everybody that we do have the option of approving for some of the districts, but not all. That is an option that we have entertained in the past. So is Member Wands back yet?
I'm not seeing her. I'm going to see if I can get her.
Gonna re-invite her.
Noah, can I ask for your help for a second?
Yeah.
Will you resend the link to Member Wands, Courtney Wands?
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But I do,
Lisa, I just want to note that there is an attendee with a hand raised. I don't know if you're looking to recognize attendees when we're not at a public
No,
comment
just-
phase, but I just wanted
Yeah.
to note that.
we generally go to public comments after the committee has all been able to voice their comments. Oh, it looks like we've got Courtney back. But thank you for noticing that. Maybe we should let member Wands express her thoughts, and then we'll move to the comments from the gallery.
Very
I'm
good.
so sorry. My computer crashed actually. I've been gone for like 5-10 minutes.
Okay,
So I'm gonna have to recuse. I just missed the entire conversation.
Well, we were at the point of asking for your comments on Mr. Cribben's application.
I certainly feel he's qualified for rivers and trails and suburban, following how we normally do things. I don't think he meets the criteria for downtown historic, but I don't know what you guys discussed while I was
So,
having problems.
Well, I think the key thing you missed was, I did remind everybody that that is an option of approving for some, but not all of the districts. Anything else, member Wands?
Oh, that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Cribben, I want to thank you for putting together the chart of experience. That's very helpful. It looks like Melissa is waving her hand, so maybe we need to wait.
Yes, in her initial statement, Ms. Wan said she would recuse herself because she missed the conversation, but apparently you don't want to recuse yourself. Okay, I just want that there on the record. Thank you.
Okay.
doesn't think that there's any need to do that.
Okay.
agree.
Okay. Moving forward then, Mr. Cribben, if we still have you, thanks again for putting together the chart of experience. I did note the same lack of experience in the historic downtown, and looking through all the entries, that it's obvious you have considerable experience with historic archaeological assemblages, but I didn't really see much in the way of Spanish colonial. I wonder if you could give us a little bit more about the Alameda Project and what sort of assemblages you encountered there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Alameda School site is in the North Valley of Albuquerque. It's actually under the elementary school at the corner of Alameda Boulevard and 2nd Street. Or is it 4th? My bad, it's 4th, my apologies. The site was initially settled in the late 1400s, but did have occupation all the way through until, as I mentioned earlier, Otermin's failed attempt at reconquest in 1582, I believe, yes. Basically, it was heavily impacted by the encomienda system and all the various challenges that the Spaniards inflicted upon the locals. It doesn't have direct Spanish occupation at the site. So I don't want you thinking that that is, going to carry me over the threshold. I would point out, though, that some of my experience in the Taos area, specifically the Tarleton Ranch Eco Village, but also including the McGaffey Ridge project, does overlap, again, temporally and culturally with the Spanish occupation of northern New Mexico. That's, as we all know, Santa Fe is the centerpiece of. So it's not that I have, sufficient, poor phrasing. It's not that I have a lot of experience in that core of the Spanish colonial system. Rather, my experience is at the peripheries and is connected to the core via the historical connections that Santa Fe has had.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I have no further comments or questions. Lisa, do we still have somebody from the attendee wanting to chime in?
We do. Nicole Thomas would like to make a remark, so I will allow her to speak.
Thank you.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say that from my recollection, the citation, the code citation for where this length of time and working downtown came from is 14-2.7E3 under the historic archaeologist. And I believe that kind of what the committee has talked about before is just that downtown is not only prehistoric, but it also has a huge historic aspect, archaeological aspect to it. So I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you, Nicole. We have been reviewing the 2.7 as well, but then Courtney had asked about the external policies, hoping that there would be a little further clarification in there. So between the two, just trying to figure out the specifics, but I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay. And is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this case? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Do I have to raise my hand? What are we doing here?
Go ahead, Dale. I unmuted you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion under case 2020-001891 ARC that Mr. Brian Kevin be approved for rivers and trails and suburban districts, but not at the historic district at this time.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Ivey,
Aye.
Courtney Wands,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
The motion has been approved unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Cribben.
Mr. Chair, committee, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll be following up with a letter to you, Brian.
Thank you, Ms. Roach.
All right.
Okay. Any housekeeping before we move on to the next case?
I just shifted Mr. Cribben back over to being an attendee. The next case, I will switch the applicant over to be an attendee, or I mean, to be a panelist. My apologies. Okay.
All right.
Lawrence is now going to appear as a panelist.
Thank you, Lisa. Moving on, case 1920. Hollis Lawrence, historian, request to be included in the City of Santa Fe approved list of archaeologists and historians. I'm assuming from the resume that this is for all three districts. Is that correct, Lisa?
That is my understanding, yes.
Thank you. And do we have Mr. Lawrence available?
Hello.
He is unmuted. Mr.
Hollis, are you there?
See.
He doesn't show as having audio. Oh wait, no, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Never mind. I think if you read the letter he wrote, he's looking to be approved as a historian. He's already permitted.
Yes, he's looking to be included as a historian on the list. He is already listed as an archaeologist. I wonder, Sally, if he is clearly in attendance, but we can't hear him audibly. How do we proceed from there?
Excellent question. Mr. Lawrence, I'm wondering if, oh, you muted and unmuted. I'm wondering if you've got an additional control for your audio on your end, where you can make sure that we can hear you on a microphone on whatever type of device you're using. We could certainly table this case and circle back to Mr. Lawrence after another one in the hopes that perhaps he can rejoin possibly on a different device. Ideally, we would want to give him the opportunity to speak. I don't feel very comfortable deciding his case without him being able to speak.
Agreed.
Well, I think for the near term, I would recommend that we amend the agenda then and move this case to the end of item F. Does that make sense? And can we do that?
Yeah, if the committee would like to vote to amend the agenda and table this until a further part in the agenda, that's fine.
Okay. I'll need a motion then from someone.
I move to table this case until such time as we pick it up again, whether it's in the middle of the other items or at the end.
A second.
Okay.
Okay. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. My question was, I felt that you had to either table to postpone to a date specific or table to later in the meeting.
I think that was the spirit of my motion.
Okay, thank you very much. David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Ivey,
Aye.
Courtney Wong,
Aye.
Dale Flynn.
Aye.
The chair, the motion has been approved unanimously.
Thank you.
I would just say, Mr. Lawrence, if at any point you find that your mic is working, you can always raise your hand and tell us that, and we can try and slide you in sooner. But as of right now, we're going to shift you down to the end of the agenda. And my apologies about that. We'll figure out a way for it to be heard one way or the other.
Thank you, Lisa.
Sure, I've shifted him back to an attendee. And now our next case is, you can go ahead and announce that one.
Okay. All right, we are moving on to case 1922, Archaeological Monitoring Report for Phase 1 construction and placement of junction boxes and buried cable between Nichols Reservoir and McClure Reservoir, City of Santa Fe and Santa Fe National Forest, Santa Fe County, New Mexico. This is submitted by the City of Santa Fe Water Division, hopefully represented by Mr. Paul Duran. Paul, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm clear.
Okay, is there anything you would like to tell us before we begin consideration?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, committee chair, committee members. I would like to apologize for the application designation identified for the River and Trails District. This project is just east of the city's boundaries, and I've submitted it to the ARC for your review and comment. It is part of a larger project within the Water Division, and it is funded with the city, but we felt like it would be good because it is part of this larger project that needed a monitoring plan and so forth. We didn't, submit a monitoring plan, and we would like your review and comment before we send it to the Forest Service.
Thank you, Paul. I did note that, and I wanted to get a clarification from Lisa or perhaps from the attorney. This action is a case that takes place outside of our jurisdiction, and I understand this is submitted mainly from informational purposes. So what exactly are we doing here? Are we approving this or just providing comment?
Lisa, if you need help, let me know, but
My understanding that some portion of the project boundary or the project area fell in the river and trails area. Is that not the case, Paul?
No, ma'am. Everything is just east of the city's boundaries.
Okay, then in that case, the case is technically exempt from ARC review because it's going to be undergoing federal review.
Yes, we requested that it be looked at for review and comment only, not as an action item.
Okay.
And there is another segment, which is what you might be thinking of, that does kind of touch the river and trails. And I believe that that's underway now and that OAS is monitoring that.
Okay.
And there was a monitoring report submitted for that in October. So that may have been what you were thinking about.
I may have gotten a little confused about that. My apologies. So in that case, Sally, the committee could discuss and provide comment, but not necessarily have an action on this item, even though it falls under action items.
Correct. Yeah, it sounds like it's definitely an informational item, but if the committee would like to discuss it and provide comments, that's certainly within your discretion this time.
Okay, well, I think to keep things moving forward, we'll just go ahead and do that, if that's all right. So I'm going to call on Member Eck first.
Thank you, Derek. Wow, Paul, Nicole, thank you. Nice product.
Thanks.
I have
Thank you, sir.
two little niggling editorial things to raise.
Okay.
One is on your page 5, packet page 21, the very last line. In the parenthetical citation of the Latin name for lupin.
Page 5.
Latin should be lupinus, not lupines.
Oh, yes, sir. I got it. Thank you.
All right, and then on your page 35, packet page 51. The figure caption for figure 21. I think you would need to insert the word pipe between bell and fragment, or else we would need to learn what churches you think the bell came from.
Yes, sir. Got it. Thank you.
That is all.
Okay, thank you, Member Eck. Member Ivy?
No comments.
Okay, Member Wands?
No comments. The early pictures are great.
Thank you.
You. And finally, Member Zinn?
This is a great report. I really love reading all the history, and the historic pictures, of course, are really fabulous. I have one question: is exactly how are these goats helping? I see the picture. They don't look like they're helping a lot. They're not. Oh, that's a serious question.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the goats were used, and this is a really unique kind of way of building these earthen dams. And here in New Mexico, they built this earthen dam, toppling the sediment on top of each other and using these Santa Fe local goats to just stomp on it and tamp it down, and then just raise the dam until it exceeded 80 feet. And there's only one other place here in the state that they were able to use these goats, and that was in Raton, where they built an earthen dam. Yeah, incredible.
I hope they were fat goats.
They would have been skinny. They would have worked them.
That's right, working goats. Very good.
I thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Yeah.
It's fun.
Good. I don't have any additional comments other than I also thought the report was very well done. So Lisa, being that this is not truly an action item for us, do we just move on, or do we actually need to take a motion to not consider the case?
Well,
I don't,
Sally Paez.
I don't think you need a motion. If Milicia could just note for the record that this was actually an informational item, and we can proceed to the next item on the agenda.
We'll do so.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And I
Thank
guess
you
we're
all.
ready for 1863.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Paul,
Thank you.
Nicole.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Just give me one moment to switch things around. Is everybody? And our next applicant is Ron. So let me find him. Promote him. And unmute him. So Ron,
Hello.
all right, we can hear you.
Good.
So I guess it's you, Derek, to announce the case.
Thank you. So we are ready for case 1863, an archaeological monitoring report for a Verizon project between Water Street and West San Francisco at the Sandoval Garage in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Applicant in this case is Ron Winters on behalf of Black and Veatch for Verizon. Mr. Winters, is there anything you would like to tell the committee before we begin deliberations?
Only that as it happens sometimes on these projects, that on-site conditions and other provisions sometimes change the scope of work, and that is indeed what happened on this project.
Mr. Chair, can you hold a minute, please?
So we're just pausing so Milicia can adjust her audio recording.
Ready.
Chair Pearson and Lisa, while we're pausing, I just wanted to note that I believe Mr. Lawrence is having, as you know, audio problems, but he is able to participate in the Q&A function. So I just wanted to note that. So we can perhaps circle back to him and allow him to participate in the Q&A after we're finished with the current item.
I think that would work. I could read into the record his comments that are typed into Q&A, and he could respond, and I could then read those for him, if that's acceptable to everyone.
That sounds fine to me.
Okay, so
Well, then
perhaps we can move through the cases that are, because Ron, I think, has 2 or 3 in a row here. So maybe we move through Ron's cases, and then we move back to Paul's case. After item 7.
After 7.
Good. Very good. I'm sorry, Mr. Winters, had you concluded? Was there anything else?
Pretty much, except that it was heavily disturbed. We were right up against the side of the Sandoval Garage, basically in the footprint of the foundation. And when we did the trenching, and that whole area along Sandoval has been landscaped also. So that's all.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Then we'll begin comments from the committee with Member Eck, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ron, only a couple of the normal things that I always have to nitpick. Throughout the document presented, you have a problem with time, tense, and the will or if versus it did happen.
In changing, David, from the plan to the report.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A careful edit would take care of all those problems. Other than that, nothing more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Eck. Moving on to Member Ivy.
No comments this time.
Thank you. Member Wands.
No comment on this.
Thank you. And finally, members in.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. I have no comments or questions either. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, wait, did we have anybody from any attendees that needed to be heard? Lisa?
I'm not seeing any hands raised. If you'd like to comment on this case, please raise your hand now. And I'm seeing none.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
I move for approval of case 2020-00183 ARC for approval as submitted with the amendments in grammar and tense to be in the final report.
Second.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
David Eck,
Aye.
Jack Abbey,
Aye.
Courtney One,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
The motion has been approved unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. And please stay on the line. I think we're moving on to your next case.
Okay.
All right, then. We are ready for case 1864, an archaeological testing report for LA 129249, located at 2725 Agua Fria Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Applicant is Ron Winters on behalf of Blue Buffalo LLC. Mr. Winters, do you have anything you would like to share with the committee before we begin deliberations?
Absolutely. This was, site was a little perplexing as you read when Post first recorded it. I think he recorded or documented on the surface maybe 80 artifacts, and he thought it could be 100 to 200 artifacts present. He didn't know any features. He did suggest this small or slight depression possibly could be a feature, but could be natural also. So what I did was put test units in all of his concentrations and into the depression, the area where the depression was, and then added another one in the middle of the site. It's not a large site, but highly concentrated. It was 45 by 47, I think the dimensions that I came with, very almost identical to what Stephen had recorded. My suggestion, and during the testing, I wanted to note that I also did not find any features subsurface. My suggestion, my recommendation was that when the site is prepped, when the initial groundwork is done, that I monitor any and all ground disturbance in not just in the site boundaries, but in the area surrounding the site to see if in fact there are hidden features that neither Stephen nor I could locate. As you saw, I found a lot more than, that was initially recorded and at a depth that was initially estimated. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. All right, we'll hear comments from the committee, beginning with Member Eck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ron, on your page 31, packet page 34, first paragraph. The list of personnel in the last couple of sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, but I fear it doesn't match the list of personnel presented on the next to Cultural Resource Information System Investigation Abstract Form.
Oh, okay. Did I, okay.
And
David,
having,
You're saying, David, that I didn't include everyone on the NIMCRIS form.
and similarly, you did not include two of the people listed on that form in your report. It would be nice to, well, let me rephrase that. I think it is necessary to rephrase your description to indicate who was there to do what function at what time.
Okay.
I'm intuiting that it may have been several different visits at different times, and that might have led to the different listing of personnel.
Exactly.
Could I just interject really quick? My apologies for the interruption. Milicia, did you have a clarification that you needed?
Yes, on comment, was he speaking of the NIMCRIS form? That it didn't have personnel listed on the NIMCRIS form. Did you hear me?
I'm not sure what your question is.
He said that it was, the personnel didn't match the NIMCRIS form. He did not give a page for that, but I want to be sure, was it the NIMCRIS form he was speaking of?
Yes, that form begins on packet page 73.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and then my other, just one quick request is that as you start speaking, just say your name aloud.
Very good.
Thank you.
Member Eck, anything further?
Yes. Thank you. This is David Eck. And a general question focused on your page 32, Ron, packet page 35. The section at the bottom of that page speaks of site-specific excavation plan. The report is titled Testing Report, so I'm a little confused about the language. And I wonder also about the plan. Was a plan written and put in place, reviewed by anyone? Who did you consult with on the plan?
You mean, did you see this prior to this? There was, is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
I don't believe so. I don't believe we went to the committee for the testing. Oh, no, we did. I apologize. We did, because the question was it data recovery or was it testing? Yes, we did.
All right, then it would be necessary, I believe, to include reference to that plan and that discussion and provide a citation to that document in your references cited.
Okay.
Same section. It's the second to the last paragraph on that page. Your estimate of your test units comprising 3% of the area of potential effect.
Mm-hmm.
My calculator says it's 0.24%. That's an order of magnitude smaller than you characterize.
Okay.
So it is less than 1/3 of 1% of the area of potential effect.
Okay.
your page 49, packet page 51. Second sentence under summary and recommendations. Testing at that level cannot be construed as demonstrating what you state here. The test excavations revealed that you didn't find any, but it does not establish that there are no features.
Okay. Well, that's, I think, why I followed up with my, rather than more test units, was to monitor any ground disturbance when they were doing the site preparation.
Yes, sir. Last comment and or question is on your site record form. It's packet page 80. Under recommendations. Where you describe that the site is a lithic and ceramic scatter that dates from the late developmental through the coalition period. You then go on to speak about occupation being associated with the Montoya family and talk about archival records yielding limited historical information. I'm lost. What is the relevance of the Montoya family's historical occupation to a developmental through coalition period site?
Oh, I maybe didn't clarify that. I mean, that's a later occupation. It's not associated other than the being in the same proximity to the site.
All right. Was there indeed any testing of the historical features present on the property?
No, because they weren't part of the site.
Okay. All right. Then I guess an opinion, and then I'll be quiet and you can move on. The recommendation of Mr. Post was for there to be data recovery at this site, and we went down the path of doing some testing to sort of verify the situation. Personally, I don't think we're at the point of being able to move toward monitoring construction. I think there's still some archaeological excavation that would be appropriate. And we can get into the details of that later after everyone has had the chance to comment.
Okay, thank you, Member Eck. We will move on then to Member Ivy.
I have no comments.
Okay. Member Wands.
Your page 8, package page 11, basically through packet page 14, your page 11. When you cite people, especially significance amounts, you're actually supposed to block and put page numbers.
Okay.
The block quotation. So there's that. And then, sorry, let me get to. Okay, on packet page 40, your page 38,
Mhm.
the first paragraph, level 3, had an area in the southwest corner that appeared burned and had small amounts of charcoal, and several sherds appeared burned. Did you follow that out?
Yes, but what, and I didn't clarify that was a later, that had to do with the historic occupation of the site and not the prehistoric. I didn't clarify that those were, I mean, it's recent, it's recent charcoal burn.
The 20 to 30 centimeters down?
Well, there was right near there, yeah, there was looked like a thermal feature, like somebody had burned trash there.
But the flakes above it were intact?
The
flakes in level 2, that was undisturbed?
No, I think it was all disturbed. I mean, I think that the whole site, boundaries are in a disturbed area, from various, the cattle, the occupation of the property. There's as you saw on the eastern edge, there was a push pile. In terms of, and then bioturbation, I think the whole site, had exhibited disturbances of various types.
Okay, you know what would have been helpful to be able to see that? Profiles and photos of the excavation units.
Okay.
Which are usually included in testing reports. And then on packet page 41, your page 39, you discussed the fact that there's maybe a midden on the site.
Well, just the concentration of artifacts.
Right, so middens are features.
I have a question answered. If I could, from Ms. Wands.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see it profiled?
Yes, usually.
Profiled with this.
So normally when you excavate, you draw a profile of the stratigraphy in your unit.
Okay.
Or at the least you take a photograph of it.
Thank you.
Member Wands, did you have anything else?
I'm still confused about the disturbance that isn't mentioned anywhere in here, but just the lack of photos and profiles I find problematic as well. But that's it.
Thank you. Moving on then to members in.
And that a paragraph that needs to be understood, that parenthetically the archaeological testing of the house. So it just gets it out of that confusion. Otherwise, I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Winters, I have a couple of questions. The first is sort of a follow-up to what Member Eck was asking about earlier. Can you tell us for certain whether a testing plan was reviewed by this committee?
Yes, I was mistaken. It was quite a while ago, but the whole discussion was about, I think I called it initially a data recovery, and the discussion was was it truly that, or was it a testing plan? And what it was decided by the committee that it really needed to be a testing plan and not a data recovery to see what in fact was there. I didn't, you're right, I didn't cite that date in that meeting, but I can include that certainly.
Okay, thank you. And if you'll bear with me for just a moment, I'm trying to find my other question here. Oh, I guess it had to do with your recommendation to monitor during construction.
Mhm.
If the committee approves your case and your recommendation, monitoring during construction does not necessarily result in the production of a monitoring report. Is it your intention to provide us with a monitoring report in this case?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely. And in fact, I would be on site for, as I mentioned earlier, any ground disturbance, from initial blading to construction, if there is construction in that area, or what construction is involved in that part of the site. No, absolutely. Yeah, I would. In fact, I have a couple of other projects that I'm watching that you ask about, and the one on South Meadows, on Kate's Way, I've visited frequently, and to monitor any ground disturbance there and any construction. And I think actually I've documented a cobble alignment that wasn't visible necessarily on the surface, but may relate to the other work that was done there, because it's in close proximity.
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, I think that if the committee does end up approving monitoring during construction, we would definitely want a monitoring report.
Of course.
Whether or not there are new discoveries.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I planned on doing that.
Very good. That's the only comments I had. Do we need any additional comments from the committee here? Does anybody want to raise their hand?
I'll verbally raise my hand.
Oh, very good. I'll yield the floor to Member Eck.
All right. The summarization of this in the staff report has a key sentence. The purpose of the investigation was to determine whether controlled testing would reveal significant subsurface remains or features at LA 129249. I believe the document at hand demonstrates that there are significant subsurface remains present at LA 129249. The next sentence says that the testing determined the site's depth, spatial extent, assemblage composition, and depositional context. I offer the opinion that it has given us information about depth in some very few locations. It has revealed little or no additional information about its spatial extent. It does give us a good rough look at the assemblage composition, sufficient to put it in archaeological time. Depositional context, however, has not been fully investigated. The notation of midden in one area of the site suggests that there would very likely then be habitation in another area of the site. That has not been established as being present or absent. The described disturbance to the site would be typical of that area. For instance, was it ever cultivated? Was it a pasture that allowed cattle to stomp the deposits? Was it a horse corral? Was it a domestic garden? What is the nature of the disturbance? And can that be documented? And then this conundrum about features. In order to demonstrate the absence of something, we'd have to do a significant more amount of work. I personally would think that this document would benefit greatly from the addition of the description and interpretation that the applicant offered in response to other members' questions, and more specifically would necessarily include the photographs and profiles of the excavations that would allow the committee to make a better evaluation of the level of effort and the results demonstrated. And I would suggest that the most efficient way to do some additional testing to augment all that would be to procure a permit for the use of a backhoe to test a known archaeological site, and a series of trenches be placed across these areas that are concentrations, across the areas that are not concentrations, and most importantly, I think, across the area that is noted as a depression, so that we can actually see the context for the deposition. A 1x1 window into the middle of a pit house that may or may not have stopped at an intermediate level of fill that is, by chance, sterile in that 1x1 meter unit is not informative about the greater context. I'm speaking from experience, having placed a 1x1 in the middle of a rather significantly extensive, both horizontal and vertical dimension kiva. The 1x1 was useless. It was only when the backhoe was employed that reality became apparent. So my personal opinion is that there's more to be done. The document at hand needs to be augmented, and the level of field effort, I think, should be expanded to include some backhoe testing.
Okay, thank you, Member Eck. Any other committee members who would like to be heard?
So may I say something, Derek?
Please, I'll yield the floor to Mr. Winters.
So David, I'm wondering if the report was approved on the condition that this additional testing, the comments and questions that Courtney had could be incorporated into that testing and the issues that you had cited with the report. If that could be done, and then on the condition, then a final report based on any new evidence that is encountered or documented, be part of an additional report that becomes a final report. Is there a way to do that and proceed, and then produce a report that incorporates all of these comments and questions.
My gut says I don't think so, because
Okay.
my gut interpretation of this is that I don't know enough. That is just my opinion. However, there are other members in this committee. It's simply a matter of, if it were me and I was investigating this site, I would consider that I have made a good first step, and that there was a significantly greater amount of work to be done.
Okay, so then you would like more of the testing phase done, but then after that, obviously that would be reported on. So do you think is that then would that be sufficient, depending on what was found?
I think it would be sufficient for us to know where we are.
Uh-huh.
The results could be any number of things. We could find out that we can demonstrate that this entire area was plowed for 40 years, and that explains the patchy distribution of artifacts throughout the area. That would be something that we could learn. On the other hand, we may learn that there are habitations, activity areas, and features, such as thermal features, or storage features, or residential features that are present, and we may find that we're in a position of facing a reality that we have more work to do.
Okay, thanks
So
for the clarification on that.
it's a matter of stepwise learning and reporting.
Chair Pierce, may I interject?
Please.
I want to bring to your attention that Andrew Zink has his hand raised and may want to comment on this case.
Please, then we'll yield the floor to Mr. Zink.
So I have.
All right, am I unmuted?
Yes.
All right, hello, my name's Andrew Zink. I'm with the New Mexico HPD SHPO reviewer for the city. Thank you to the ARC for letting me speak and comment on this plan. I haven't read it. Ron, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Andrew. Nice to
All right, I just want to clarify that this is strictly on private land, correct?
Yes.
There's no municipal property or anything like that?
No.
All right. And I just want to make, because we don't have a record of a plan coming to our office as far as anything that we needed to review and comment on. It probably came through when we sent it off, but I would echo David's comments that there's a lot of work left to do at this site as far as the information is still lacking. As far as I think there was, Ron, you hit a lot of stuff there, and the information in this report sounds like it's what is incomplete for what you hit, that you need to add a little more detail so they can make a better I think David's probably made his decision that, you know, you could probably move forward, and I think it needs more than testing. I think what you found showed that it has a significant archaeological data there, and that it needs to go forward to a data recovery. And I would recommend to the ARC that you revise this report to be a complete report with those revisions, and then come back later with the, if you are fortunate enough to move forward with data recovery, just have that as a separate report. And those are my comments.
So Andrew, I have a question. So based on what you're saying, would you suggest trenching as David did, or a scrape, across the surface? Do you have any?
I think mechanical work needs to be done.
Yeah.
For sure, because it doesn't sound to me like there's a good grasp on the stratigraphy of the site at this point.
Uh-huh.
And multiple trenches would do that, especially if it's varying throughout the site.
Right. And the site is not that large, so it would be fairly easy to put a couple of trenches, through it and really establish that.
Right. And anytime you have a depression like that, bisecting it with a trench is the easiest, efficient way to figure out if it's, an old burrow pit of some sort, or if it's actually a cultural feature.
Yes. So this then would actually be continued trenching, continued testing, and then depending on what came out of that, possible data recovery.
It sounds to me like, this is just opinion, and not even reading this report or the plan, that it's already been decided that this has significant cultural remains, and you need to go straight to data recovery.
Oh.
Put a plan together that reflects that, to answer all these questions that this testing report has shown are still out there, as far as the horizontal location, how the potential midden relates to structures that might be in the area. There's a lot of questions that it sounds like that you can put towards your research questions for a data recovery plan as a result of this testing report. It sounds like this did exactly what a testing report's supposed to do. Let you know that there's a lot more work to do, and there's a lot more information on this site that now a data recovery plan will investigate. That's how I'm seeing it. I don't know if that's what the other ARC members are also coming to the conclusion of.
Thank you, Mr. Zink.
Mm-hmm. Back on mute.
Thank you.
I am a little anxious to move this item forward since we have a lengthy agenda. As acting chair, I don't make motions, but I'm just going to toss out some options for the committee to consider. And there are three. We could postpone consideration of this case to allow Mr. Winters to address some of these additional concerns in his existing testing plan. That's option one. Option two is that we could simply accept his report and his recommendation to monitor during construction. And option three would be that we accept the report, but recommend data recovery on the site. The first step being that Mr. Winters prepare a data recovery plan. So at this point, I'd ask if any committee members have additional thoughts or prefer one option or the other.
I have my hand up. I don't know if I'm getting heard or not.
Yes, I yield to Member Zinn.
I just had a question because I know at the moment, a member talked about some trenching and something. I think there's certain vagueness of this, so I don't know if we need to be very specific about that so he doesn't come back and say, oh, you need to trench some more. Or is this recovery data plan cover those trenches, and does that have to come back to our committee?
If the trenching is done as part of a data recovery effort, then yes, it would be included in the data recovery plan, which would be approved before further field work.
That's right. I'll just confirm that the data recovery plan would need to come to the ARC to be approved, and then the data recovery would happen. And then the report would be following that.
I'm assuming that they're anxious to get going on this project, but because it's going to be almost the entire site covered by development, we have this one or second bite of the apple. And I think it's probably a good idea to have that data recovery plan.
Any other committee members who wish to be heard?
What was the first option again?
Or number one?
Yeah, the first option was just to postpone consideration of this case and allow Mr. Winters to revise his current testing plan or testing report to address some of the committee's concerns.
Kind of what I'm leaning towards.
Would that then involve doing the extra tests, the backhoe trenches, all of that as part of this testing program?
There's the question.
Yes, I believe under that option, it should be included in a revised testing plan or testing report, sorry.
Right, so it's not, this is not, we don't go right to data recovery, we do more testing, and that includes addressing all these issues, but also trenching, whatever else needs to be done to expand on this testing.
Correct, that's how I envision it.
Okay.
Any other committee members who have an opinion one way or the other? And how about someone who's brave enough to make a motion?
If you would like, Derek. Oh, can you hear me, Derek? This is Andrew Zink again. I might be muted.
Yes, no, we can hear you.
Yes, please go ahead, Andrew.
Are you hearing my audio? I may be having audio issues.
It's not good, but we can make it out. I can.
Okay. If additional testing involves trenching, he will have to get a mechanical excavation permit for that. And if that testing results in having to do data recovery, he's going to have to go back again if there's more mechanical work to get another permit, unless you write it all as a data recovery plan that goes from, okay, here's phase one, and if all these if-thens, if this, then we're going to go to the data recovery portion of it. So it sounds to me like it may be simpler to go to data recovery instead of additional testing, and just revise his result and just revise the current testing report to address some of the areas that are unclear as far as stratigraphy descriptions, disturbance throughout the stratigraphy, and things like that. Did you catch all that, or is it breaking up?
No, we did get that. Thank you, Andrew. Yes, and I would have to concur. Though it may seem counterintuitive, I think perhaps the fastest way forward for this project is to go to data recovery and have Mr. Winters present a data recovery plan that includes some of these additional methodologies that we're asking for.
Okay.
Thank you. Committee members, anybody else?
Somebody has their hand raised, an attendee has their hand raised.
Oh, thank you. Alicia Abbott.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
We'll yield the floor to Dr. Abbott.
Mr. Chair, can you pause, please?
Of course.
I know.
Can you talk to them?
They're paused for some reason.
Okay.
I am ready.
Okay, then, Dr. Abbott, do we have you on the line?
Actually, no, you have the lost sheep that could not connect, could not speak, could not hear, could not anything for the last 10 minutes.
Oh, that's very,
So,
hold on. Just 1 second. I'm changing your status. Okay,
Okay, Member Eck, are you there?
I'm here for 5 seconds or so. I had to log back in as Alicia because it wouldn't let me to log back in as me. So sorry about that. I'm using her computer. She's on smartphone someplace. Thank you, Andrew, for pointing out the mechanical excavation permitting problem. And I think that was the main thing I wanted to remind everybody of. And I believe that you have already done that, but I don't know that because I didn't actually hear much of any of that. So if everybody can fill me in, is that where we stand?
Yes, Member Eck, I don't know how much you missed, but I believe we're moving towards a consensus that we are going to accept the current report, but require data recovery, with the first step being that Mr. Winters would prepare a data recovery plan that addresses some of these additional measures that the committee has been asking him about. And that would
Okay.
include mechanical excavation, for which he would have to apply for a permit.
Okay, then I would submit that this document needs all the revisions that we spoke of earlier regards the presentation of data, because that data will be critical to the submission of any data recovery plan that would be in support of a mechanical excavation permit. So the
Is that a
report
motion?
still needs to be fixed.
So Member Eck, is it your opinion that these additional concerns like lack of profile descriptions should be corrected in the existing report, or should they be included in the data recovery plan?
I guess that doesn't matter, because as long as it's presented somewhere, I'm just not sure that the substance of what I thought I heard you say, which was approve this and move toward data recovery. I don't think we can approve this without the changes. I'm sorry, I just don't see a way to approve this without the changes being made.
Yes, I understand your concerns. I guess I was hoping to punt this down to the road to the data recovery plan so that we don't need 2 meetings just to approve, because we would have to come back, approve the revised testing plan, and then come back again to approve a data recovery plan. But if that is what is needed, then that's what we'll have to do.
No, I think you put your finger on it. We can do it in one fell swoop. This document will be completely and fully incorporated with the repairs indicated as part of the data recovery plan, and we'll move forward.
Another option, and I don't mean to complicate things, is to do an approval with very specific conditions for revision. And then require staff approval to check that those revisions have been made, but that it's entirely up to you guys. Whether you do it as an approval with conditions right now or require that it be included in the data recovery plan, it's up to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Member Eck, any comment?
Only that I'm at a total loss for how anyone would make a motion to get us out of the woods here.
I agree.
At present, if there were a motion to approve this document, I would vote no. If there were a motion to approve this document with changes to be verified by staff, I think I could probably consider a different vote. What I would really like is that this document simply continues its existence and becomes part of a larger document that is more comprehensive, presented as a data recovery plan that would satisfy us, give us a plan to review, would then also satisfy the Cultural Properties Review Committee as a plan upon which they could pass judgment, because it would have all the information in it that they need in order to evaluate such a proposal for a mechanical excavation permit.
Okay, thank you, Member Eck. Are any other committee members who'd like to be heard on that? Well, hearing none, David, I think you just volunteered to make a motion. So how about it?
I move that the committee require the applicant to include the entirety of this document and any and all modifications to that document that are expressed or implied in any comments that any committee members have made so far into a document that will be presented as a data recovery plan, sufficient for the committee to review and pass on their opinions to the eventual other party that will consider this plan, being the Cultural Properties Review Committee, in the context of an application for a mechanical excavation permit.
Very good. Before I hear a second, could we hear from Mr. Winters? Ron, do you understand the substance of that motion?
Well, I do, but it doesn't really address this case.
Yeah, I think we would still need to either approve or postpone consideration of this case as it's presented now. So, Member Eck, was that your intentions to postpone consideration of this case?
Well, no, because it would come back to us as a completely different item and should be considered as, I think, something else. It should be considered on its own merits.
So you have a couple of options here. You can either postpone and then require that review happen in a different way as part of the data recovery plan, or you can deny approval of this case and then request that a data recovery plan be brought back to the committee as a separate case.
All right, thank you for all of that input. Let me take a stab at a revised motion. Retain 100% of the verbiage I already offered and preface it with the motion to postpone until a date certain, which has not yet been determined, for reconsideration as part of all of the following verbiage.
Okay, just one clarification though. Postponing to a date certain means that you know the date that you want it to come back on. So it would just be probably a postponement to a date uncertain.
It is my understanding that we must postpone to a date certain.
That is correct.
No, no, you do not need to postpone to a date certain. That is not correct.
Okay, this is
Can you
new.
verify that for me, Sally?
Yes, that's correct. We would need to know the date of the meeting at which the in order to postpone to a date. You just postpone.
So we can postpone and not specify the date.
Okay,
Noise
then
complaint.
modify once again the modified motion to postpone until a date to be determined, at which time this document will be presented as part of all the following verbiage.
Gotcha.
May we check in with our stenographer to make sure she has enough to record that motion?
Mr. Chair, yes, I do. I'm just rather confused by the motion, in that it's not postponed to a date certain, because that's what they did when I did city council. So I would presume it should be the same for this one. And what they said was you postpone to a date certain, that date comes. If it's not ready, then you postpone again to the next meeting. It's fine. I'm just expressing to you my confusion. I will do whatever you tell me to.
That may have been a preference, but for the body you were dealing with before, but that's not a requirement, certainly, to my knowledge.
Well, since we're lucky enough to have the attorney on with us, I think we can take her advice. Just postpone.
So, I mean, I'm not as familiar with this committee as I am with the others. Those of you on the committee know, this is my first meeting. The advantage of postponing to a date certain is usually related to noticing requirements. So to the extent that there needs to be a mailing to the neighborhood or certain newspaper postings, things of that nature, we postpone to a date certain to make sure that we're providing notice to the public, and we don't need to issue all of the new notices in the same way. So I'm not sure if there's any notice requirements for this committee that we're able to really that make a difference in terms of whether we pick a date certain or just postpone in general.
The only noticing we do is posting the agenda.
Okay. So I think that's really the distinction here, because we don't put out yellow posters or legal notices in the newspaper in the same way that we do for some of our other hearings. So I think that's why it's less necessary to pick a date certain at this.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we have a motion before us. Do I have a second?
Oops, I've got some people muted. That again.
I second.
I think we had multiple people trying to do it there. Let's just say that Jake seconded for the record.
Okay, Jake seconded.
All right, maybe we have a roll call vote, please.
Sure. David Eck.
Aye.
Jake Ivey.
Aye.
Whitney Williams.
Aye.
We're not hearing you, Alicia. Speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry, Courtney Wons.
Aye.
Dale Sand.
Aye.
The motion has been approved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. This case is,
Amended motion.
all right, the amended motion is approved and this case is postponed to a future date.
Thank you, everyone. I knew this one was going to be a difficult one, but I appreciate your input and patience.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. And don't go anywhere. I think we have you for one more.
Two more, I think.
Two more. All right,
Oh,
very
no,
well.
just, yeah, this one and the next, yeah.
Okay, so we are ready to move on to case 1847, an archaeological monitoring report for the CenturyLink project at 144 Park Avenue and Catron Street in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Applicant Ron Winters on behalf of Outsource for CenturyLink. Mr. Winters, anything you would like to tell us before we begin deliberations?
Only again on this one, conditions warranted a much less invasive procedure in terms of the method of monitoring. We only ended up doing one bore pit. We're able to use an existing manhole to this bore pit and then to the, directly to the property. And so it was, wasn't as extensive as originally planned and approved.
Okay, and we'll hear comments from the committee. beginning with Member Eck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pages 41 and 42 of the document, pages 42 and 43 of the packet. The same problem with time occurs throughout the section on monitoring and field methods. It switches from was to will, etc. That is the only correction I offer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Ivy.
I have no comments.
Thank you. Member Wands.
Oh, sorry. I had no comments.
Okay. Finally, Member Zinn.
No comments.
Okay, I just have one comment, Mr. Winters. This is figure 2 of your report.
Okay.
I just want to commend you for the use of the street view image there. That really, it helps us visualize the project.
Yeah, sometimes plan view doesn't really do it.
Yeah, I like that. So other than that, I have no comments. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. If there are any attendees that need to be heard. Lisa, do we have anybody with their hand up?
No.
Okay.
Look like it.
Then a motion, please.
Move to approve with the ministerial changes indicated.
Second.
May we have a roll call vote?
David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Ivy,
Aye.
Courtney Wine,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Winters. And you're right, we do have you for one more. So if everyone is ready, we can move on to 1862. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so at this time, we're going to consider case 1862, an archaeological monitoring plan for the proposed CenturyLink project at 490 Bishop's Lodge Road in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Applicant Ron Winters on behalf of Outsource for CenturyLink. Mr. Winters, do you have anything to tell the committee before we begin?
Not really. Let's move it along.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, Member Eck.
Want to wish you well. I hope you don't discover any unanticipated surprises there.
Tread lightly.
Exactly.
Okay, Member Ivy.
I echo those sentiments. Other than that, no comment.
All right. Member Wands.
No comment.
Okay, and Member Zinn.
No questions, no comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Winters, I just have one question.
Okay.
And again, this is on your figure 2, which is an aerial showing your project location. I'm working off of a black and white copy that isn't particularly good. I just want you to confirm what I think I see. It looks like almost the entire alignment of this proposed bore is under existing pavement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So really the one pit that you're proposing to monitor is our only opportunity to monitor subsurface.
And that's in a
It's
disturbed
underground.
area next to the building there, next to, Fort
Yeah.
Marcy.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. That's all I had. So anything from attendees? Anyone with their hand up? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Move for
I move.
approval.
All right, you do it.
Okay, I'm sorry, 1862 ARC as submitted.
Second.
Okay, that was a second by Member Eck. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Ivy,
Aye.
Courtney Lunds,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Winters, for your
you all.
patience with all these cases.
Yeah, and thank you for patience, especially on the 2725. I'll go through you.
Very good.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, do we have Mr. Cribben?
no, Mr. Critter, Mr. Lawrence.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lawrence. Yes.
So I will move him over. So hold on just a sec. Just gonna do some quick maneuvering and I'll bring him up. Okay, he's saying, do you want to introduce the case and then I'll read his comments into the record?
Okay. So yes, at this point, we are going to return to case 1920, Hollis Lawrence, historian, request to be included on the City of Santa Fe approved list of archaeologists and historians. Lisa, I understand you have some comments to relay from Mr. Lawrence.
I do. Mr. Lawrence says, greetings, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I thank you for your time and appreciate your consideration for the historian permit. I'm available to answer any questions you may have about my application. So I'm going to move back to so he's requesting, he's already on our list of approved archaeologists and historians as an archaeologist. He is applying to be listed, to be included also as a historian.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, at this point, I guess we would move to comments from the committee. So may we hear from Mr. Eck?
You may. I would point out that the table of experience, page 3 of the packet, has an entry for City of Santa Fe, County of Santa Fe, and has a blank space in the excavation days cell for that entry. When the summary of experience that follows, specifically on page 10, indicates a total of 140 days of testing and data recovery associated with Santa Fe St. Francis Cathedral. I just think that there should probably be an entry in that box rather than a blank. Other than that, I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you. Member Ivy.
Other than that, I'm satisfied as well.
Thank you. Member Wands.
I just had a question. Since he's already permitted as a historian by the state, he kind of automatically falls in for the qualifications.
Is that a question for me?
That's for whoever wants to take it.
Please, Lisa.
I think it's up to the committee to make that determination. It is one of the requirements, certainly.
Member Wands, do you have anything else?
No, I guess not.
Okay. Member Zinn.
I don't have any specific questions. My understanding is, as a historian listed with the state, that they have some additional requirements for submittals, I think on a biannual basis, to update your your work to maintain currency as a historian. Is that true, Lisa? Do you know?
I don't specifically know the answer to that question.
I can answer that. So
Okay.
yes, historians have to renew and show their continuing education every 3 years, not every 2.
3, okay. I have no other questions or comments.
I have no comments either. So unless we have any attendees wanting to chime in, if not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Is there anyone as an attendee who wishes to comment? I'm seeing none.
Okay, can we have a motion, please?
I move that in case 1920, we approve the application, both applications.
And a second?
A second.
Okay, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Let me just write down ones, okay. David Ed. Oh, wait,
Aye.
wait, I've got to go back to number 2. Hold on just a second. All right, David Ed.
Aye.
Jake Ivey.
Aye.
Whitney Ones.
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved unanimously.
Thank you. Lisa, I'm not sure how much Mr. Lawrence was able to catch that, but please lay our congratulations to him.
I will do. I just asked if he had anything else he wanted to add. And just give it 1 second, see if he has anything he wants to type and send.
Okay, of course.
All right, it seems like we're good to go. So I'll move him back over to an attendee. And I'll bring up our next applicant.
If I remember on my place, we should be ready for 1924. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's correct. Okay, so we have Nicole Thomas joining us once again for case number 8 on our agenda.
Okay, so we are ready for case 1924, request for ARC review of NMCRIS 31490 for the purposes of archaeological compliance in advance of the development of Via Sendero at 5132 Beckner Road. Applicant Wonderstone on behalf of Jenkins Gavin. Is Nicole there? And Nicole, do you have anything you would like to tell the committee before we begin?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you once again for hearing my case. We're reaching back in time to 1989 on this case. You know, given that it's an older case, as we mentioned in our report, we wanted to bring it to you to see if you felt that the context that has been established in the area from Las Solares, Tierra Contenta, and Rancho Viejo, namely, provide enough information about the area for the committee to make a decision as to whether or not the initial survey that was done in 1989 is sufficient. I know that there was a little back and forth about it in regard to the requirements, change, the guidelines and requirements for survey and inventory change for the state over time. And so certainly since 1989, there's been some changes and a lot more work done. And we just wanted to present this to the committee so that they could have a view of it.
Yes, and if I may just add a little more context to that. There was some discussion between myself and Jenkins Gavin and Nicole and Andrew Zink at the state trying to determine if the project area overlapped and if the report was sufficient. There was a more recent survey in the immediate vicinity that did not cover the specific VS project area, but this older survey from 1989 did. But there was some question from Mr. Zink as to whether or not it was reliable. So that's why I just didn't feel like I had enough information to make that determination and thought the committee should weigh in.
And that was exactly, that's the appropriate thing to do. I mean, the committee needs to make a decision on whether or not there's enough context now to determine if the previously conducted survey in 1989 is bolstered by the new information.
Thank you. Before we hear from the rest of the committee, I want to point out something in the staff memo prepared by the city. So in the staff memo, it states that City HPD consulted with Andrew Zink at the Department of Cultural Affairs and was told that the Los Solares survey did not cover the Villa Sendero project area, and that an older 1989 survey, NMCRIS 31490, was likely not reliable at this point. I'm wondering if we still have Mr. Zink in attendance and if he would care to elaborate on that.
I have promoted him to be a panelist.
Yes, I'm here. So I do remember this, and I don't know whether or not this NMCRIS 89 survey was not uploaded into the NMCRIS map service or not, but there was nothing there covering the area in question. And that's all I was going off of. As far as, how you can pull up the surveyed space layer, there was nothing over the area in question.
Are you saying actually that you didn't see any survey area over the area?
There was an older survey, but it was to the east of the area in question.
Maybe, Lisa, can you put up the map, the NMCRIS map for Andrew?
I'm not allowed to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, there are two different surveys. So initially, when I had looked at this area, I thought that the Los Solares survey had covered this area. But I realized that I was just too close to the boundary and it was picking it up. So this area that was surveyed, a 34-acre parcel that was surveyed for the outlet malls, is NMCRIS 31490. And so if you searched for NMCRIS 31490 in NMCRIS and then zoomed to it, you would see the parcel that we're talking about. Now, initially in 1989, it was this 39-acre parcel. Part of that has been built on, and the outlet malls are located on it. And then adjacent to that is an empty area, and that's this 11-acre parcel that's in question. So at one time it was a whole 34 acres when it was surveyed under NMCRIS 31490 in 1989. And then now the lot has been split. And so I don't know if that offers clarification for what you were looking at.
Can everybody still hear me, or am I on mute?
We can hear you.
Okay. I think I remember this pretty clearly, and depending on the map that I was provided as far as the area that was in question, it had not been surveyed, but there have been some nearby. If this question wants to be, do the committee members have a copy of a map with at their disposal to look at, to review? Because I would only imagine that they can only comment on this if they have if they have that information.
They
You
have,
know, like the parcel in question in surveyed space overlaid.
they have,
Thank you, Andrea. I was going to raise that same comment. We don't have a really good graphic that clearly demonstrates that the older survey covered 100% of the current project area. And without that, it is difficult to move towards, clearance based on previous survey.
So if you look at the NIMCRIS map that's provided in the appendix, that shows the survey area. And you can see where the outlet malls or the outlet mall was built. And then there should be an additional map in the packet that shows the location of the parcel to be discussed.
That's what we don't have.
Okay, because that was created and put into the packet.
Yes, it is unfortunately the case that the two figures that you attached to your letter are not in the packet. There is just the arms map in Appendix B. But I took the liberty of looking at the city's parcel map service. And I see a lot that looks like the split result of the lot split you referred to as being everything that is not the outlet mall property.
Correct.
Does indeed appear as 11 acres exactly, which matches what you're describing. So if you could verify to us that the parcel you're speaking of is everything east of the outlet mall construction and south of Beckner Road, all the way to the original property line to the east northeast, I think I at least would be completely satisfied.
Yes.
I apologize. It looks like that for whatever reason, the duplications office did not pick up those figures. So I was not aware of that until just now. I apologize.
Thank you. That was an issue. With the packet we were given, I have a pretty clear indication of where the old survey was, but not Nicole's new project area. So
I can verify by looking at it. I'm telling you that the project area is within NIMCRIS 31490.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Sure. I apologize about that. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes.
No, we certainly appreciate that clarification. Nicole, anything else before we hear from the committee members?
Nope, I have nothing else to add.
Okay, then let's officially hear from the comments from the committee members. I'll return to Member Eck first.
Well, I would hasten to speak in support of the request. Although I can already hear a lawyerly stirring of show me the writing and support thereof, but it is the case that the ARC approves clearances of parcels, not projects. So the fact that the outlet mall ended up building itself on only part of the parcel, and then there was a subsequent lot split creating a new parcel, that parcel received clearance from the ARC at the time of, even if nobody can find a document that says that, it would be in keeping with our practice of the last far too many years to view clearance of the parcel as just that. I think we can accept this report.
Thank you, Member Eck. Member Ivy, anything to add?
No, that sums it up.
Okay. Member Wands?
No, now that there's been clarification about the maps, they're better.
Members in?
I just would like the motion to include language that specifies that this is a portion of a existing lot that was previously cleared. Let's make it very clear.
Wise counsel, thank you.
Chair Pierce, we do have one question from the floor.
Very good. Go ahead.
Paula Flepson.
I'm sorry, my question is only related to the lack of a hand icon. I've lost it and Ken Brown has lost his too. And I didn't know if there was some other way to, as an audience member, to indicate.
You should be able to raise your hand by trying *9 if you're on a phone or a smartphone. If you're
I'm on the computer and I've still got the Q&A, but the hand icon is gone.
You have your panelist, your participant window open?
I believe so.
Just for clarification, I'm looking down at the bottom too, and the little hand is gone now for some reason.
Thank you.
Noah, are you still here? Can you help Lisa look and see if there's a setting to address the hands?
Back our hands.
The other option would be if we cannot get the hand function to work, you can type questions into the Q&A window or say I have a question in the Q&A window and I'll make sure that you get heard.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that.
Okay, thank you. I'll relay my comments really quickly. My main concern was that the previous survey did cover 100% of the project area. I'm satisfied that it does now. And I'm not as concerned about the age of the survey. I concur with Member Eck. Once we clear a parcel, it's cleared for good. So I'm in favor of approving this case. But I will entertain a motion from someone else.
Please, Mr. Chair, can you pause, please?
Yeah, we'll hold for a moment.
Thank you. And could you please state your previous remark that you were okay with this because when I get ready, okay? Go.
Yes, I was saying that my main concern was that the previous survey covered 100% of the project area. I'm convinced now that it does. And I'm not as concerned about the age of the survey. I concur with Member Eck that if we cleared the parcel in the past, it is cleared in perpetuity in a sense. So I'm in favor of approving this case, but I will entertain a motion at this time.
Oh, you'll have to unmute before you make a motion.
Are you unmuting me or am I unmuting?
Well, you can unmute yourself, and I request that you unmute yourself so that I don't have to go back and forth because I'm really trying to eliminate the background noise by muting everyone.
Well, it says mute auto, so I must be unmuted.
You're unmuted right now, yes.
Okay. My unmuted voice is, I would make a motion to approve case 1924 ARC as submitted with the clarification that this is a area that has been previously approved in 100% total under NIMCRIS 31490, but the actual project is a subdivided portion of that original amount.
Thank you. May we have a second? That was Member Ivy seconded.
That's right.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
David Eck.
Aye.
Jack Ivy.
Aye.
Courtney Wands.
Aye.
And Dale Zinn.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved unanimously.
Thank you. And thank you, Nicole.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that concluded, I believe we're ready to move on to item number 9.
Okay. We'll bring that case up and bring in our applicants. I believe the applicants in this case are Paula. Is there someone else that we need to bring in as an applicant on this case?
Pardon? I just lost it for a
Sorry, I
minute.
was converting you to become a panelist. Are you the only applicant we need to hear from on this case? Or is there-
Hollis Lawrence is also, as the client, New Mexico Gas Company. He's the representative for them.
Great. So you should both be panelists at this time.
Okay, and if we're ready, we'll start consideration of case 1923, Cultural Resources Monitoring Plan for New Mexico Gas Company at 1000 Canyon Road, main replacement 2018. Applicant is TRC on behalf of the New Mexico Gas Company. And I understand we have Paula representing
Yes.
TRC.
Yes, thank you.
You'd like to add?
First of all, I hope everyone is staying well and healthy and safe. That's it's interesting times we're living in, and really thank you for putting this together. This is a unique way of having our committee meetings, and it might just be something that goes long into the future. So I appreciate everyone's patience as we go through this process. And that's all.
Thank you.
Sure.
And Lisa, do we have anything from Mr. Lawrence?
I don't have any. Mr. Lawrence, do you have any comments at this time? If you could type them into Q&A. I am getting a request from Mr. Brown to convert him to an applicant or a panelist.
Yes, and it appears that Mr. Hollis would like to answer a question live as well.
Okay.
Trying to keep an eye on these Q&As for everyone.
Well, can we begin with Hollis then?
He will need to type his answer or his question or his comment, whatever it is, in the Q&A window.
Here I am.
I'm not seeing comments from Mr. Lawrence yet.
While we're waiting, did we have something from Ken Brown?
I'm just here to support Hollis and Paula. You've obviously have read the monitoring, and I'd just like to state we're not anticipating really any intact remains in this. As I understand it, the replacement gas pipeline the trench will be on top of the existing steel pipeline that was put in back, I think, in the 1970s. Therefore, the new trench is essentially excavating previously trenched deposits. However, it will be entirely monitored for its entire length. So that's kind of just wanted to summarize.
Great, thank you, Ken.
Chair, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, what is Mr. Brown's first name?
Ken.
It's Kenneth.
C-H-E-T?
K-E-N-N-E-T-H.
Oh my God, boy, I really messed that one up. Kenneth. Thank you, Kenneth Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Lisa, did we ever hear anything from Hollis?
I have not seen any new comments or questions.
Okay.
Mr. Hollis said hi. So I think that means he's following along.
All right. In that case, I'm going to move on and hear comments from Member Eck, please.
Thank you. It's just one question, and that has to do with fieldwork strategy. On the assumption that you don't find anything cultural, the indicated level of effort for monitoring, production of profiles seems appropriate. But maybe keep in mind the contingency that you do actually find something exposed in profile, in which case you may end up profiling the whole thing.
That would be correct. Obviously, if there are discernible, any discernible stratigraphy or intact, undisturbed cultural deposits, longer segments of the trench where those deposits are discernible will be profiled and photographed.
As I expected. Thank you, sir. That's all.
Member Ivy. Jake, are you still with us?
Yes,
Everyone is able to mute and unmute themselves, but
I'm here and I had no comments.
Okay,
Was I supposed to do that, Lisa?
it would be simpler if you could mute and unmute yourself, but it's up to you.
Oh.
Member Wands, any
I
comments?
see.
I'd like to know who's going to be doing the monitoring.
I don't really have somebody determined yet. It kind of depends on when this goes forward. If it goes forward, I understand that it's considered essential work, but I don't know if there's going to be any kind of delays in anything. And we have considerations with who we have as available staff. So I'm not able to specify a person at this time.
If I'd like to interject, Marie Brown, my better half here. In fact, she's sitting behind me here. Both of us are on the Santa Fe permit for all three areas as archaeologists, and she is probably most likely the designated monitor, and if for some reason she is not able to do it, I will be more than willing to do it. Both of us are, like I say, are on the permit for through TRC as permitted archaeologists in the city.
Okay, because it would have to, whoever monitors does have to be permitted for downtown.
Right. They will be.
Thank you.
Okay. So finally, Member Zinn, any comments?
I have no comments on the archaeology. I just had a question for Lisa. I was surprised that the Peter Van Dresser house is not listed as contributing to the historic district. Is that true?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I mean, that's what it says here. I just was curious about that. Anyway, otherwise, no questions in this particular case.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions or comments either, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, who moved? It was Mr. Zinn?
Mr. Zinn seconded. I believe it was Member Eck who made the motion. Is that correct?
Got it.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is.
Thank you. And
Okay.
now we'll call the roll. David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Ivey,
Aye.
Courtney Long,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved unanimously.
Great, thank you. And thank you to the folks from TRC.
Thank you.
I want to thank the chairman and the committee members. Thank you for setting this all up, and it's been an experience.
Yeah.
That's
For
true.
sure.
Everyone stay safe.
Thank you for that. Okay, I guess we're ready to move on to number 11.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
This is Member Eck announcing that I must recuse myself at this point from this next case. And therefore, in order to facilitate participation of the person who does need to be able, I ask that the sponsors deconnect this device from association with myself and reconnect it to its original association, one Dr. Alicia Abbott.
I have just renamed your device as Alicia Abbott, so switch her in.
Lisa, one question. When the case is concluded, how will we let David know that he can return for the last item?
Maybe we can ask Alicia to ask him to rejoin the conversation.
I will. I'll let him know.
Very good.
Very convenient.
That is very convenient. Thank you both. So we are ready.
Okay, then we are ready for case 1925. Archaeological testing within the boundaries of the Old Masons and Oddfellows Cemetery at La Sequoia de El Castillo Development, 401 Old Taos Highway, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Applicant is Alicia Abbott of Abbott Tech on behalf of Jenkins Gavin for El Castillo. Dr. Abbott, do you have anything for the committee before we begin deliberations?
Yes, please. Thank you, Vice Chair Pierce, committee members. This plan is intended to be close to the plan that I had outlined tentatively for the committee last month. I also wanted to reiterate that it will, of course, with your changes and recommendations, also be submitted, of course, to Historic Preservation Division and perhaps the CPRC for their approval going forward. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. Do we have anybody else before the committee, Lisa? I think Lisa has muted herself.
Do we have any, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do we have any attendees who want to be heard? Anybody raising their hand?
I don't see any hands. I'm not sure if they're working well. I have noticed that a couple of representatives from Jenkins Gavins have been signed on and off as attendees, so it might be worth checking in with Colleen.
I'll promote Colleen to be a panelist.
Okay.
Hi, this is Colleen Gavin. Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, great. Sorry, I was on another screen here. So I am in attendance.
Okay. Well, if you have nothing to add at the moment, we're going to move on to comments from the committee. But we'll certainly pause for any additional comments before taking the roll call vote. So,
I don't have any other comments.
very good. Then we'll begin with Member Eck. Oh, sorry. Member Eck had recused himself. Member Ivy.
Comments. Oh, wait. Am I muted or unmuted?
I just unmuted you.
I can hear you.
Now you've muted. We're working across each other, so I'm unmuting you. Trying to.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Did Mr. Abbey have comment?
I have no.
Thank you.
No comments, I think.
No comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Member Wands.
I had no comments, but I just saw that Andrew Zink said the hand option is gone again.
Correct. We'll go to public comment after the committee has a chance to make their comments. So we'll ask again.
Okay. We'll move on to Member Zinn. Any comments?
On page 7, thank you, Chairman. On page 7, up in the first paragraph, it says the testing did locate any intact human. I think it means Not,
Did not, that's correct, I'm sorry.
your apology is accepted.
Thank you, Dale.
And other than that, I have no comments. It's exciting.
Okay.
It is exciting.
Yeah. The only comment I had was that originally we were given the packet without any of your figures, but Lisa was able to get them to us at the 11th hour, which was a great help. It was really hard to visualize your testing plan without figures. So, but we have them now, and I'm satisfied, and everything looks good. So I have no other comments.
Yes.
I take that back. I did, not so much a comment. I want to read something into the record and have you comment on it, Dr. Abbott. This is on packet page 29. It's your section on human burials and isolated human remains.
Yes.
The second sentence reads, and I'm doing this mainly for the record, every effort will be made to identify grave locations as peripherally as possible before encountering actual grave contents. Meaning that you hope to identify graves without digging into them.
Yes, sir.
Are you satisfied that your testing plan does that?
I think that we can. I think that what we will do is we will test to the extent that we can find evidence of burial pits, and then test to continue testing, which may, of course, encounter graves, and then to test to the extent that we can say that we have tested beneath the area or through an area where if graves were likely to be, we would have encountered them, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you for that.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. My only other comment was that this is there's confusion on the staff memo, actually. The background and summary says that Alicia Abbott presents a testing plan. However, down below in the staff recommendation, it says that we would be approving a treatment plan. There is a little bit of a distinction between those two. I just want to make it clear that this is a testing plan for purposes of delineating the extent of the cemetery. It is not a treatment plan. We are not clearing this parcel.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
That was a mistake. My apologies. I was working very fast and sometimes mistakes get made, but duly noted.
Yes, unfortunately, there is a lot more work that will need to be done before the client can proceed with developing that particular part of the parcel.
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
It is a testing plan only intended to discover as much as possible the locations of additional graves.
Great. And we certainly appreciate and look forward to that. Okay, Lisa, do we have anybody who has raised or otherwise signaled that they need to comment?
So Andrew, I am going to want you to talk here under the assumption that your comment means that you have a comment to make.
I'm sorry, you may hear a couple of dogs barking in the background. And I didn't really have a comment regarding this plan. I just wanted to let you know that the option to put your hand up is not available anymore for me. But Alicia, did you discuss with Michelle at all whether or not these are marked graves and you don't need a CPRC, individual burial excavation permit, or they're unmarked now, so you do need the CPRC, or is this something we need to discuss?
Yes, Andrew, I did discuss this with Michelle, and it was my understanding was that when this plan is submitted to HPD, that you will be able to decide according to your requirements, additional permits that might be required, mechanical excavation permit or a project-specific burial permit. We had initially believed that the verbiage was such that a project-specific burial permit might not be required, but we are completely available, obviously, to accept whatever HPD's decision is with regard to additional permitting, project-specific burial permit, or mechanical excavation permit as is required by HPD. We are ready to accept whatever HPD determines in that case.
It sounds like I have a discussion with Michelle that we'll discuss it. We'll all discuss it at some point. Oh, and once this gets cleared and you get that plan to us, we'll do our best to get comments back to you ASAP, because the deadline for applications will be, I think it's May 22nd for the June meeting.
I'm glad to hear that the committee is meeting. I had not known for certain what your meeting schedule was, given the current situation with the pestilence, but we will do whatever is required, absolutely, to make sure that we satisfy the requirements of HPD and or the CPRC for this.
All right, that sounds good. We're doing a special, the April meeting was canceled, and so we're doing a special meeting that was scheduled for today.
Okay.
For today, that got canceled.
Yes.
And because some of the CPRC members are a little unsure with the how this process will work, or if the technology is going to work. So Jeff's in the middle of getting the kinks taken care of. And so hopefully the June meeting will still be on. So if you do need to apply for, well, it sounds like the mechanical excavation permit for sure, if you're doing mechanical work, that is so far on. And at this point, I'm guessing it's going to be a virtual meeting similar to this one.
Fine.
Okay, so I'm done. All right.
Let me also say additionally, please, I apologize for the committee not receiving the figures until today. I split the text and the figures into separate files because of their size, and any delay in getting the committee the figures is my fault completely, and I apologize for that.
Okay, thank you. I kind of lost my place here, but I believe that we had concluded comments and are probably ready for a motion.
I think we probably are. Lisa, do you think in an abundance of caution, we should check in with any of the other attendees given the hand functionality? I know that we have 3 land use department staff members. I suspect they're watching because they're going to be doing this.
Anyone who wishes to speak, I'm completely available.
And if you do wish to speak, please type into the Q&A window indicating that you wish to comment, and I will enable
There's
that.
just a few potential candidates here, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance before
Certainly.
we move on.
Seeing none.
Okay, well, if there are no additional comments, then I will entertain a motion.
I move for approval of 1925 ARC with the one edit, which Lisa's done it already in real time, to a testing plan rather than a treatment plan.
Okay, motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. David Eck.
David recused himself.
I am sorry. He is, and I do have him recused. Jake Abbey.
Aye.
Courtney Wines.
Aye.
Dale Singh.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion is approved on a vote of 3 in the affirmative, none in the negative, and 1 recusal.
Very well, thank you. And Dr. Abbott, thank you and good luck. And please let Member Eck know that he can return.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
All right, as soon as Member Eck is back on screen. We're ready for our final case.
We're losing our audience. We had 24, now we're down to 8, I think.
It appears that I am back.
Need a pen, run out of it. I need to buy a refill for that. I love that pen.
Lisa, can you pull up 1926, please? And do we have anybody available to represent OAS?
I should be here.
Eric was there, yeah.
That would be Dr. Blindman. Okay, so we are ready to move on to case 1926, excavation plan for an unmarked burial discovered during construction at 206 McKenzie Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Office of Archaeological Studies for Falling Colors. And I believe we have Dr. Eric Blindman representing OAS. Eric, do you have anything to add before we begin deliberations?
I think the only thing is the ambiguity around consultation and final disposition, but Falling Colors has proposed a reburial location on site if that ends up being acceptable through the process of tribal consultation.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one question, however, which is in this, the awkwardness of this new presentation. Normally, I would have provided you paper copies with color. Did you get PDF copies with color, or are you struggling?
Yeah, we got stuff.
You got
It's
the color.
good.
Good.
Yeah, we have nice color graphics.
I was hoping.
They were hand inserted into the package.
All right, I was just going to ask. So
I appreciate that effort.
Thank Lanny McCauley. Shout out.
Lisa, do we have any attendees or anybody else that wants to be heard before we hear from the committee?
Normally we hear from the committee first and then ask the public for comment after.
Fair
but
enough.
I'm not seeing any right now.
Well, they'll have a second chance then because we'll do the committee first. Member Eck.
I have no comments other than to wish you well.
Okay. Member Ivy.
I have no comment.
Member Wands.
No comment other than thanks for the detailed work.
You're welcome.
Member Zinn.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Dr. Blindman for his usual really good graphics and presentation. I do have one comment, and again, it's has to do with the page 26. And I don't, the characterization that the 20th century modification of the compound have been compromised the potential national or state register qualifications. I really think that this property, it came within one vote of being declared significant in the Santa Fe district by the city H board. But under the criteria of historic figures, I think it'd be hard to argue that Edna Ballard and most of that took place in the 50s. So that's gives us 50 years easy. I think this would be eligible at least for the state, probably not the national. So I would argue about that statement. And then one other question I would ask that because of, I don't know where they're intending to rebury. Eric, you have any idea?
There's, I won't say a conflict, but there's ambiguity in the tracks of consultation. Michelle in historic preservation wants to avoid the ambiguity of multi-consultation tracks and that there's actually a conflict in city ordinance expectations and state burial statute expectations. So the consultation process will move forward under the state archaeologist's purview for this particular project. The reburial option will be provided during consultation, but whether they, the tribal representatives or HPD, who actually has the final say, whether they take advantage of that, we don't know.
So
HPD,
it's not going to be on site.
there's a possibility for it being on site. However, HPD and Michelle have always been somewhat skeptical over the ability of private individuals to maintain the sanctity of a reburial location in perpetuity.
In perpetuity is a very big word. And my only warning about that is because the piece of property that is now a nice grass lawn facing Grant Street, that was the Clipos Jaramillo house that was torn down. So my guess is if anybody, that's not been cleared at all. So if somebody starts trying to plant somebody over there, they may run into foundations or anything. So I would just recommend staying away from that area, certainly.
I will.
Other than that, no more comments.
If we don't.
No other comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Blinn just had one minor comment. It's an editorial correction, I suspect. I believe it's on page 49 under consultation and final disposition.
Mm-hmm.
The second paragraph, and let's see, it would be the one, two, I believe the third sentence reads, past experience suggests that the Pueblo of Tesuque will choose to be a participant, but the ethno-historic record does preclude the interest of other Tewa Pueblos. I kind of suspect you mean it does not, yeah.
I will edit that in.
Okay, otherwise I have no comments. So I'll return to Lisa to see if we have any attendees who need to be heard.
I am told that the hand raising function is back in effect. I'm not sure how that got messed up, but if anybody wants to say anything and you're able, please raise your hand or type into the Q&A window.
It does appear to be working.
Okay, I'm not seeing any.
I see one.
I saw one briefly. Andrew, was that you?
Danny Perez. It went down.
Danny Paez. I think that's Sally's significant other.
I apologize. Yeah, we're doing a little technical testing over here. The functionality is there.
Okay.
Well, definitely is there. Dan has got his hand up.
All right, we're gonna let Dan Esquivel talk.
Okay.
And it's gone.
And he's gone. Looks like
They're just messing with us now.
They're just waving at me, so I'm assuming there's no comments.
All right, then I think we're ready to entertain a motion.
Okay.
I move for approval of 1926 ARC with the small editorial comments included.
Do we have a second?
Second. Third.
Yeah, let the record reflect member Juan's got that second in first.
Just by a nose.
Nice
May we
work.
have a roll call vote, please?
Oh, sorry, Milicia, let's unmute you.
David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Abbey,
Aye.
Courtney Wands,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
The motion has been approved unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Blenman.
Thank you all.
Okay, I believe we're ready to move on to item G, discussion items. Does anybody have any discussion items? I seem to have lost Lisa, by the way. Are you still there, Lisa?
She just
I'm
passed
here.
out.
Passed out. I'm still here. I don't have any discussion items. I do have a communication administrative matter.
All right, well, with no discussion items, the next item would be matters from the committee. So committee members, anything? I see some head shaking, so I'm going to take that as a no.
Thinking everybody's done.
Yeah. Then item I, administrative matters and communications.
So just one that May Heritage Preservation Month, as you all know, and we will be making selections for the Santa Fe Heritage Preservation Awards for this year, and the Archaeology Award will come to you via email ballot, and then we will make that selection and then make the announcement at the next hearing on May 7th, which is the next regular hearing of the ARC, which is only in 2 weeks. So also want to mention that we will be at this again in 2 weeks. We do have a handful of submittals, and I'm working on the agenda for that already.
Thank you, Lisa.
Oh.
All right, before the final item, I guess one more last opportunity for anybody else to be heard. Any hands to be raised? Do we have anything?
I just want to thank Lisa and staff for all the good work. This was tough.
Thank you. And I would offer my sincere thanks to Noah and Sally for being here and for figuring this out with me. It's not been easy, but it seemed like, it went off about as well as I expected it to.
Yeah, and congratulations.
I really
to you
appreciate this committee. Y'all did great. You were our test run, our first virtual land use hearing, and I really appreciate everyone's patience and participation.
And congratulations on being the first land use public hearing on this new platform. You guys did great.
Yeah, and we are all YouTube stars now.
Yep, you are. Congratulations on that too.
Yeah, we're going to go viral really soon.
No doubt.
Nicole has a comment she wanted to make.
I was just gonna say, excellent job. I was gonna send an email saying, really good job, especially for the first round.
Thanks, Nicole. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it came off really well, all things considered.
Mr. Chair, I too would like to thank Lisa for her hard work and educating this 80-year-old woman how to use this application. And it went off without a hitch for me. So thank
Good
you
job.
so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic, Melissa.
I also,
Yay.
in the interest of offering platitudes, I need to say thank you to Daniel Esquivel because he has put in some heroic efforts to help us out as well. So thanks, Dan, wherever you
Thank you,
are.
Dan.
Thank you.
I think the H board is going to be a much different animal.
Yeah. That happens on Tuesday.
All right, well, it's been a long afternoon, so I think we're ready
Jake,
for
you're
everybody's
up.
final item Jake.
Yeah, I think Reddit will have a great time with this. I move we adjourn.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
No seconds.
Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. David Eck,
Aye.
Jake Abbey,
Aye.
Courtney Wands,
Aye.
Dale Zinn.
Aye.
The motion has been approved unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.